Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll show you a thriller film, Brimstone. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The film starts with its first chapter, titled Revelation. In a small hut, a woman is giving birth with the assistance of Liz and her daughter, Sam. The woman's husband then gives his thanks for their help. While returning to their carriage, Liz looks at the distance, but immediately regains her attention when Sam calls her. In their house, Liz and Sam are hanging clothes outside when she sees Ely, her husband, teaching their son how to shoot. Liz angrily approaches them, hand-signing to her husband as she is mute, trying to stop what they're doing. But the father and son ignore her. Liz walks out, so Ely tries to stop teaching as Liz is now upset. The son continues to shoot, then proceeds to say that Liz isn't her mother, as Liz is only his stepmom. The next scene shows Liz and her family attending a gathering that seems to be a mass along with other people. The Reverend comes to the center and talks about things that are related to their religion. After the mass, Liz continues to gaze at the Reverend nervously as she witnesses him feeling the belly of a pregnant woman. Ely introduces his family to the Reverend, but finds Liz missing, so he goes to look after her. Ely finds Liz at their carriage, who seems wary of the Reverend. All of a sudden, the pregnant woman starts to agonize in pain. Upon hearing this, Liz hurries in to help her. Inside the church, they lay her on the floor. In an attempt to help the pregnant woman with delivering her baby, Liz hand signs to Sam to tell what she is saying to the old lady. Sam informs the old lady that they have to choose who to save between the mother and the baby, as the child's head is too big. Sam heads out of the church. Liz and the old lady proceed with the delivery. After the delivery, she asks Liz to give her baby. Liz seems hesitant at first, but the old lady takes the child from her and gives the child to the woman. She cries out loud as she discovers her lifeless baby. Upset by what happened, Liz slowly leaves. Following the scene, Ely approaches Liz and hugs her from behind, assuring her that it's not her fault for the woman's loss. Ely tries to comfort her by saying that the Lord gives but sometimes takes things away. Liz disagrees and says that it was not the work of God, but the Reverend himself. The next day, Liz and Sam go to the place of their last patient, but the husband of the patient denies their presence, as there is another appointed doctor who's coming to their place, arranged by the Reverend. On their way home, the people don't greet them as usual, while Sam waves her hand at them, probably because of the incident with the woman's baby. Later that night, Nathan, the pregnant woman's husband, wakes up Liz's family by shooting at their window. Nathan, who seems upset, searches for Liz and protests outside their house. Ely tries to talk it out with Nathan, but he accuses Liz of murdering their child. The Reverend arrives and stops Nathan from shooting more, stopping the conflict. Ely invites the Reverend inside their home. Liz refuses the idea, but Ely ignores her. Hiding behind, Liz observes their discussion as she focuses on the Reverend. Ely decides to fetch Liz upstairs, as he does not see her. Liz attempts to peek at the Reverend, but he catches her presence. The Reverend warns Liz about punishing her for her sins and threatening her with Sam. When Ely goes back downstairs, he sees Liz. The Reverend excuses himself as he must go. After this, Ely talks to Liz. She only responds that they have to move out of their place. The day after, the son is about to feed the sheep when he enters the barn. But to his surprise, all their sheep had already died. Ely rides his horse to talk to Nathan about the situation, with his son following behind. On the other hand, Liz instructs Sam to stay behaved and to sing out loud while she cleans the barn. Suddenly, the door to the barn closes. Liz struggles to get out of the barn. She panics as she sees the Reverend slowly approach her daughter. Liz sees the Reverend taking Sam away. Liz attempts to climb up the window, only to fall, making her unconscious. Meanwhile, Ely and his son arrive at Nathan's place, only to find that the couple have already moved out. Later on, Liz regains her consciousness as soon as Ely and his son return. Liz tells Ely about the Reverend locking her inside the barn and him taking Sam. Liz looks for Sam inside their house. She gazes from outside their window, then spots Sam returning, embracing his dad as if nothing had happened. At night, Liz sneaks out of their house as her family is asleep. She leaves, riding a horse to the church. Liz enters the church and readies a pocket knife as she walks. She enters a room and unfolds a blanket, only to find a doll. Meanwhile, back in their house, the Reverend is beside Sam's bed, as he also carries a knife with him. Liz rushes back to their house, upon realizing that the Reverend could be there. Ely wakes up to check up on his children. Outside the window, he sees that the lights are turned on from inside their barn. He goes outside holding a gun, ready to check the barn. As soon as he enters the barn, the Reverend appears behind him and stabs him. Liz arrives, only to see her husband lying on the floor with his neck tied onto his own large intestines. Ely orders Liz to shoot him to end his pain and suffering. The son arrives at the scene and starts sobbing upon seeing his father's state. Liz hesitates to shoot him, so the son takes the gun and shoots instead. Sam calls out to Liz as she is woken up by the Reverend. Liz and her 2 children reunite. They leave as their house is now burning from fire, probably caused by the Reverend. The second chapter of the film begins, titled Exodus. Joanna is seen walking around in ragged, dirty clothes. She suddenly collapses out of tiredness. When Joanna regains consciousness, she sees 3 people waiting for her to wake up. Among them is a woman who informs her husband about Joanna being awake. The woman's husband takes Joanna to the city of Abusement to get her to a man named Frank. Joanna is sitting down on a couch when a bunch of prostitutes comes in. That is when Joanna realizes what kind of place she was brought to. Joanna tries to escape, but she gets stopped by Frank. She couldn't do anything but stare at the family that brought her here. At night, Joanna is woken up by some loud noise. She goes out of her room and discovers the people next door are having a hormone game. Joanna is working when a man grabs her by the hand and asks her name. The man then asks Frank how much it would cost to have sex with Joanna. A prostitute appears and offers him free service. He agrees as long as Joanna would watch them so that she can get educated with the hormone skills. Joanna is watching their game when the man suddenly hits the prostitute hard. Joanna grabs a gun and points it at him. The man strangles the girl, provoking Joanna to shoot him. Moments after, he approaches Joanna, but the prostitute gets up and shoots him instead. After what happened, the prostitute gets punished for her crime and is executed by hanging. Years pass by. Joanna is doing a smelly workout with a customer until they get interrupted as Frank is being challenged by someone to a gunfight. Frank wins the duel. In the pub, the crowd's attention focuses on Elizabeth, another prostitute. Elizabeth bites her customer's tongue as she kisses him. Elizabeth gets punished by Frank by cutting her tongue off. Afterward, Elizabeth studies sign language as she now has lost the ability to speak. Elizabeth plans on escaping to start a new life with her new family. She packs her things with Joanna's help. Suddenly, the prostitutes get called to gather as Frank is going to make an announcement. Frank tells the prostitutes that someone wants to buy their pub. Joanna goes out to see who Frank is pertaining to. She suddenly gets anxious. The ladies introduce themselves to the man, who turns out to be the Reverend from the first chapter. Joanna blindfolds her eyes as she goes down the stairs. Joanna gets picked by the Reverend to be alone with. The Reverend starts to approach Joanna and talks to her as if he already knew her in the past. The Reverend asks Joanna for help, but she refuses, and so he hits her with his leather belt. Joanna screams for help. Elizabeth hears the fuss and rushes to Joanna. She enters the room and slashes the Reverend's face with a knife. The Reverend stabs the knife into Elizabeth's chest, leading to her death. Joanna quickly escapes. He almost gets her, but she slashes the Reverend's neck with the knife. As she runs away, Joanna asks a man for help with cutting her tongue off. The man lacks the courage, so Joanna does it herself. After a while, a cart is waiting for Joanna. A man then asks her if she is Elizabeth. Joanna nods, even though she isn't. It turns out Joanna is now taking up Elizabeth's name and journeys to meet her new husband, Ely, to start a new life. This implies that in hopes of successfully escaping the Reverend, she took over Elizabeth's identity, which she actually succeeds in doing, as proven in the first chapter. The third chapter begins, titled Genesis. In the desert, a man struggles to crawl toward his horse for survival. Another man catches up to him and shoots him in his head. The scenario shows a dispute that has left other men to die. The next scene shows a young Joanna nervously praying. She looks to the side as she notices the Reverend closing the door while she prays. The next day, the Reverend, his wife, and her daughter Joanna attend a mass. The Reverend talks about the Word of God, saying how they are the chosen people. Later on, he asks his wife to go to the front, only to embarrass his wife in front of other people. At night, Joanna runs outside their house and discovers that she's bleeding from her first menstruation. Joanna then goes outside to pee at her parents. She sees her father, the Reverend, striking her mother on her back using a leather whip. The next day, the wife catches Joanna washing her stained pants. She tells her daughter that she is not dying as bleeding is normal for girls. The Reverend appears and orders his wife to educate Joanna and wash her as she is unclean. Later that day, Joanna is feeding hogs when the 2 men named Samuel and Wolf arrive from the desert. Samuel asks Joanna if he can drink from the pump, and Joanna is kind enough to let him. Just when Samuel is about to leave, he suddenly collapses. Joanna drags them inside the barn and aids them. Joanna is talking to the 2 men when the Reverend suddenly arrives inside the barn. He then invites Joanna to go with him. The Reverend is taking a bath as Joanna cleans his back for him. The wife sneaks to peek at them as she notices something is off with her husband. She interrupts them and says what the Reverend is doing to her daughter is not right since she's only a child, but the Reverend refuses to answer. The next day, Jonah gets ordered by the Reverend to kill the hog by shooting and stabbing its neck. She proceeds to do so. The Reverend congratulates her, but Jonah walks out to weep out of sadness. The next scene shows Joanna changing clothes. Meanwhile, the Reverend peeks at her from the door. The wife sees what the Reverend is doing and gets concerned by her husband's behavior. She asks his husband if she can talk to him, but the Reverend gets taken aback and fixes his composure. She confronts the Reverend about how he looks at their own child, Jonah. The Reverend slaps her hard and tries to justify his wrong actions towards Jonah. Later on, Jonah brings food to the two men. Wolf proceeds to go outside to take a dump. Samuel asks Joanna for some rope. While Wolf is doing his smelly business, Samuel drops a rope around his neck and proceeds to choke him, leading to his death with his smelly butt unwiped. After this, they feed Wolf's remains to the hogs. Samuel tells Joanna that he had to kill Wolf as he would have killed him at some point. Meanwhile, the Reverend and his wife return from a smith. She starts wearing a metal lockjaw device around her mouth to prevent her from talking back to the Reverend. The next scene shows a mass gathering. Joanna proceeds to tell her mother about why she lets the Reverend do things his way. Joanna claims that she'd rather die than let him do what he wants. While the Reverend is conducting the mass, Joanna walks out. After a while, the mother intentionally falls from the roof inside the church, hanging herself. The church people get surprised by the sudden suicide. The Reverend then proceeds to say a lot of bad things about what his wife did, discrediting himself or her pain. At night, Joanna heads to Samuel and proceeds to embrace him. Samuel comforts Joanna. The next day, the Reverend arranges a wedding ceremony for him and Joanna. Joanna tries to run away, but the Reverend manages to stop her. When the Reverend almost makes Joanna wear a ring, Samuel opens the door to the church, stopping the Reverend from doing so. Samuel points a gun at the Reverend's head. Unfortunately, the gun Samuel uses gets into the hands of the Reverend. The Reverend shoots at Samuel's head, which kills him. The Reverend drags Joanna toward their house and proceeds to whip her back. Joanna couldn't do anything but cry in pain. After this, the Reverend proceeds to rape her. The next day, Joanna rushes to escape from their house. The last chapter of the film begins, titled Retribution. The scene shifts to the present time, right after Joanna, now named Liz, and the children escape their burning house. In the snowy mountains, Liz, together with her two children, heads somewhere. Liz decides to hide and wait for the Reverend to come on the same path as they did. Liz hears footsteps. She readies to shoot, but only sees a horse walking alone. Moving on, Liz returns to her kids to continue on their way to escape. They bump into a boulder as they venture. The boy assures Liz that he will be fine and goes to check what they stumbled upon. But the boy gets killed by the Reverend, shooting him on various parts of his body. Liz approaches the boy and embraces his cold, lifeless body. Moments after, Liz and Sam manage to arrive at the place of her husband's father. Ely's father weeps after he realizes that his son has died. Liz prepares for the Reverend's next attack by loading her gun and staying outside to guard. The Reverend appears from behind the tree. Liz quickly rushes inside to check on Sam. She finds Sam still sleeping, but as she turns her back, Ely's father is already hanging on the wall with a knife on his neck. Liz rushes to carry Sam and proceeds to grab more weapons. The mother and daughter rush to escape. The Reverend catches up to them and pulls Liz's legs. Liz is then tied with a rope. The Reverend threatens her that he will do the same thing to Sam as what he did to Liz in the past. The Reverend whips Sam's back, while Liz can only watch her daughter suffer right before her eyes. As the Reverend is busy talking to Sam, Liz attempts to untie the ropes. The Reverend is preparing to start a hormone game with Sam, but Liz fails to untie the ropes, so she breaks her arms and successfully escapes. Liz grabs the lamp and throws it on the Reverend, lighting him on fire. Liz finally shoots the Reverend with a gun, blasting him outside the window. After some time, Nathan becomes the new sheriff of Bismuth. He arrests Liz for the wanted poster Nathan found in his office with Elizabeth's name. Liz gets taken by Nathan. As she gazes back at Sam, she jumps to the lake, knowing that Sam will be fine on her own now that the Reverend is gone. With no regrets, Liz commits suicide. Years later have passed. Sam continues to live happily ever after with her own family. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.